There are two big storms heading to New England this weekend. Two forces of nature. You have Hurricane Lee and you have the Florida State Seminoles. We're going to talk about both of these worrisome forces of nature on today's show.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome. This is Locked On BC. I'm your host, AJ Black. I am the editor and publisher of Eagle Insider, part of the 247 Network. Happy Tuesday evening, everyone. On today's show, hurricanes, looking what can fix what ails BC, and looking at some college hockey. We haven't talked about them in a while. We'll get into that on today's show. Now, the big news right now, and it's kind of brewing, is there's two storms heading towards Chestnut Hill. Now, the one storm we're well aware of, that's the Florida State Hurricanes. Florida State Hurricanes, what am I saying? My God, I'm recording so late. Florida State Seminoles. Hopefully no FSU fans heard that. Florida State Seminoles are coming in. A team that just blew out a good Sunbelt team in southern Mississippi, 66-12. They are very, very good on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball, with Jordan Travis, one of the best quarterbacks, not only in the ACC, but in the country. And he has tortured Boston College the last 3 years. I think his first year with against BC, he ran the ball for 93 yards and 2 touchdowns. And we all remember what he did last year, where BC just could not stop them, and they lost big down in Tallahassee. But it's not just Jordan Travis. What makes Florida State so dangerous, why this game is giving me an ulcer, if you're thinking of, well, it's not giving me an ulcer because I don't have much stake in this game, is that this team is the most well-rounded Florida State team that BC has played in years. And I'd argue they're better than the Clemson teams BC's played the last couple of years. You've got good players all up and down this offensive side of the ball. When you're looking at Johnny Wilson, a 6'7" wide receiver, who's not only 6'7", but good. He's going to be an NFL wide receiver in just a year. And Keon Coleman is one of the best transfer portal gets in the country. Did you watch that play he made against Southern Miss last week? Did you watch what BC's defense did last week? You can see where this could be going. You also add in Trey Benson, their running back, who BC had no answer for last year. And you start to worry that this game is going to be a very lopsided affair. And very rightfully so, you should be worried about that. Because when you look on the defensive side, you see a bunch of guys that are going to be playing the NFL. And yeah, Boston College was well-rounded. You saw Castellanos hasn't made a ton of big mistakes yet other than running his mouth. But he hasn't played a defense like Florida State yet. He's got a kind of a crisp, stat sheet right now. If you're just looking at, quarterback ranking and interceptions and things like that, he hasn't made a lot of mistakes, but he hasn't had Jared Verse running down his throat or Caleb Deloche or any of the guys that Florida State is going to truck out there. And they're 2 lines deep on this team. This Florida State is built for a national championship, and they're playing like it right now. While BC is playing like they don't even belong at the FBS level. That's how sloppy they've been playing. But what can make this game even sloppier, what makes this game, it could take a turn into the weird zone, is Hurricane Lee, which is right now is a Category 3 hurricane in the Caribbean. And depending on what map you look at, it could hit Massachusetts, definitely. When it hits Massachusetts, we don't know, but it looks like Saturday. If there is a hurricane happening, a bunch of things could happen. They could try to play. They could reschedule the game to another week, and I haven't looked at the schedules yet to see if Florida State and BC's off-week matchup. Or they could play on Friday night and just try to get the heck out of here. They did that. Didn't they do that with Wake Forest? I think 2018, was a game. that I don't know if they moved it up a day or they just moved it up a lot. I think they moved it up a day. But they could do something like that, which would be great for attendance for a school that's struggling with attendance. But if they do play, if it's just icky, sloppy football could keep this game from becoming gross in another way. If it's windy, if it's rainy, you're not going to have Jordan Travis throwing 30 to 40-yard bombs. They're going to have to keep things tight. And from what we've heard, I mean, Jeff Hafley canceled a scrimmage on the new turf, but I've heard buzz that it gets a little slick. So footing might be a challenge. That might actually neutralize a little bit of some of the things that Florida State could do to you. And not neutralize, but slow it down enough. And we're kind of at the point right now with BC where slowing them down enough might be what you're looking for. Because I don't think, I mean, looking at both sides of their ball, I don't know how Boston College is going to stop them or get anything going offensively because Florida State's just too good. So this storm is something worth watching. And, we've already had obviously for anyone who went last week, what was it? A 2.5 hour long delay because of lightning. You're going to have this. It's the weather gods are not being kind to Boston College right now. They are saying, look, we've had enough of this too. Let's all take a break. Let's take a week off and think about things. But again, this is all early stuff. I've seen different maps for Hurricane Lee. Some of them are like, the wind and rain part is like brushing up against the coast. And, Brighton and Chestnut Hill is like right on the coast anyways. But the timing, where it hits, how weather can be. Sometimes you have to wait 48 hours to get a more accurate picture of what's going to happen. So we don't know. It's worth watching though, because for folks that are heading to Chestnut Hill this weekend, for folks that are ready to watch this game, you may get washed out. You may need a parka or a poncho to make it through this matchup. You'll have to wait and see. I mean, with the way things are looking, you're going to probably get rain no matter what. Whether it's going to be a hurricane situation, that is a complete different story. Now, I want to also tell you about Locked On ACC. Locked On ACC, if you want to check out a great podcast, it's hosted by Candace Cooper and Kenton Gibbs. Awesome podcast. If you are like in a college football mode and you want to listen to something that's not BC related after this, go check that out. I always say listen to my podcast more, but I'm a little biased here. So check out Locked On ACC. Now, passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and light it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED hot lights, headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebay.com/motors. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. This is Locked On BC. I'm your host, AJ Black, and we're talking about BC football again. The big sports going on now. Volleyball. I want to shout out the women's volleyball team who beat Sacred Heart last week. This team is on a roll, and they're one of the best teams on campus. I don't know a ton about volleyball, but I want to shout out the girls that are on that team because they have been, last year they made it to basically the volleyball NIT and won it. And they're playing very well right now. So good luck to them as they continue on for a successful season. Now, we're into game 3 here. And what has struck me about Boston College football to this point has been the sloppiness. Game 1, it was a 2-prong approach that led to the loss to NIU. It was penalties. They had about 100 yards in penalties and 6 drops. Careless mistakes. I mean, you cut down the drops to 2, 3, even, you win that game. You cut down the penalties, you win that game. And you figure after one game of this that you'd fix that. And to be honest, part of it was fixed, as BC did not drop a single pass against Holy Cross, but the penalties still reared their ugly heads. So heading into Florida State, a team that is a 25-point favorite, according to FanDuel, a team that I expect to be clicking on all cylinders when they play here, whatever the weather is going to be. How does Jeff Hafley get this train back on track? What does this team need to do to win, which should be a manageable schedule after Florida State? There's wins out there, but if you play like you've been playing, if you make the mistakes that you've been making, you're not going to win any of them. I have no faith that they're going to win those games if they're going to play like that. But they have to clean things up. They've got to get control of their locker room. They got to get their emotions in check. You can't have Thomas Castellanos out there screaming and yelling and taunting when you're barely beating an FCS squad. Like, yeah, it's your first career start, but you're not Johnny Manziel here. You have not earned the right to, talk crap about another bench or get in their face like that. You got to dial that stuff back. And that all is on coaching and leadership. Not just the coaches, but the veterans on the teams too. They need to cut that down too. That I feel right now, I was just talking to a Florida State podcaster from 247. I feel like the talent of this team is exactly what I said it was going to be at the beginning of this year. The only disappointment has been the defensive line hasn't been able to do things. But I still think if they play a more typical offense, that you'll see more success out of them. What I didn't account for was how undisciplined and how poor the culture is on this team right now. And that has to fix. They got to get that under control. They've got to get their guys playing to win. And I look at, so let me just say something. I worry because I looked at Thomas Castellanos, his Instagram page yesterday, and it was from a couple days ago, I think right after the game, but it looked like he was still taunting, but on social media, and all the players are laughing at it. Like, I hope that this conversation Hafley had with his team came after that, because if this is what they did after he supposedly reamed them out, then they haven't learned a thing. Okay? When you've got, I don't want to out the guys, but there's 5 teammates on there laughing at it, thinking it's funny. You hope that they've got this stuff bit, because that BC is not good enough to have the 130th ranked team in terms of penalties allowed. They're not good enough to give up easy first downs when you don't have to do things like that. If BC wants to win, and I'm telling you, there's enough wins on this schedule to make a bowl if they can get things going. There's a lot they have to change. They've got guys, and it's not just the taunting and stuff. They seem flat too. Don't they seem flat? Like watching Holy Cross last week, they're bouncing on the sidelines. They're getting excited after every play. You look at BC, and Mark Herzlich brought it up multiple times over the last 2 weeks. They look dead on the sidelines. There's people fight, like against in the NIU game. It sounded like people are fighting on the sidelines. There's arguments, or there's nothing at all, and they're just kind of flat. This whole culture stuff can be fixed, but it's got to be fixed quick. You need to rally around your team. You need to get your leaders, your staff, getting these guys on the same page, understanding what the goal is, and believing in, we always joke about it, but loving each other, feeling for each other. This has not been an issue. This flatness has not been an issue for BC in the way that this culture is seemingly crumbled here. That's why no one, honestly, you've seen a couple guys transfer, but you have to admit, after last season, you expected a lot more guys to leave, and they didn't. because they had a good culture. But it seems like, I don't know what happened in this offseason, but it seems to have gone away. Will they find it for Florida State? And honestly, you hope to see just some steps in the right direction there. But they need to escape from the Florida State game with that culture intact. Like, the worst thing that could happen, the last thing you want to see happen, is for them to lose by a lot, which is what, we'll get to predictions later this week. I'm starting to think that's where it's going to happen. And then everything falls apart from there. Like, can they tough it out, get some, moral victories against a very good team and get out of there in one piece? Because after this, you look at the schedule and you look at these teams you have, and if they can get things going, if they can limit the mistakes and get things going a little bit more, maybe they can turn this season around. Because if they don't, it's going to get messy for a lot of people out there. And it's not just the staff, but players are going to start checking out, and that's not what you want to see. This team needs a shot in the arm. They need to come out. The red bandana itself might be a perfect way to get this kind of stuff to stop, because it's bigger than them. As Hafley said during his press conference this week, they showed him videos. They talked about it. They know the importance of this game. The last thing that BC can do is have a very emotional, somber game, with the Wells Crowther stuff that goes on in the videos and special presentations, and acting like have the players acting like a bunch of punks out there. You can't do that in this game. And hopefully, if they start to do it, Hafley benches them. I don't care if they lose 80-10. If someone's out there mouthing off or doing something lewd, get them out of the game. You have to do it. You have to set the tone. You have to be able to do that. Now, in our final segment, I need a palate cleanser, folks. I want to get back in and talk a little bit about some of our friends over on the hockey team, because I love college hockey and I'm starting to get really pumped about it. I don't know how you're feeling. It's going to be Greg Brown's second year in Chestnut Hill. And will he be able to get BC to that next level? We're going to get into all of that in just a moment. Now, everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace Case. The Jace Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you a peace of mind so that you are not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. Jace Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication delivery and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at checkout on jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Locked On BC. I am your host, AJ Black. We're getting closer to hockey season. And I was just diving into the players, and this season's going to be fun. I mean, if you've lapsed as a hockey fan, the last couple of years of Jerry York and first year Greg Brown were not the typical BC Eagles teams that you've been expecting and watching, especially during the middle years of the Jerry York era. But man, the buzz around this team is starting to get palpable. First of all, you're bringing Cutter Gauthier back. Cutter Gauthier was the team's leading scorer last year. He's a first-round draft pick that's eventually going to go to the Philadelphia Flyers. And he was an excellent top-line forward for you. But what is exciting is he is going to have a lot of talent around him this year. There are 3 true freshmen coming in, Will Smith, Gabe Peralt, and Ryan Leonard, who are all prolific goal scorers and are going to give BC, I think, some of the most shooting power in offense they've had since the Kevin Hayes, Johnny Gaudreau days. Like, these guys are all first-round draft picks, all 4 of them. And it's not just me that feels that this is going to be a big thing. The Hockey East coaches also are seeing a rebound from BC. Now, BC did not even finish 500 last year. Now, the Hockey East coaches had their first preseason poll, and BC was picked second, only to the Rat Dogs down Com Ave. BU, who has, I think, going to be the number one player in the country and probably the Hobie Baker favorite on top of their lineup. So they're the favorite, but they by points in that poll, they weren't that far off. So it's all going to be played, obviously on the ice, and we'll see what happens there. But what a good thing to get going this season. Getting excited about college hockey, getting Conti Forum and Kelly Rink packed with fans and the student section, which is always fantastic for hockey games. It feels like it's been missing. Hockey has been a consistent part of BC's identity for decades now. Jerry York did an excellent job, and obviously there was more before him. But it feels like that excitement and the buzz, like about big matchups, has kind of gone away. I mean, I have friends that are Lowell fans, and we used to talk smack to each other and make prop bets and all that good stuff. Kind of died because BC wasn't playing all that well. Well, if things change this year, maybe this will be that little spark for the fans to get back into college sports here at BC, to get them to basketball games, who should have a comeback season. Who knows what happens with football, right? So second in the Hockey standings, will they be able to live up to those expectations? Goalie's going to be something to watch for, and how their defense plays obviously will be a big thing too. Second year with Greg Brown, it's going to be a chance for him to kind of set the tone this year. Can't wait to watch it. I know you guys are too. Now, tomorrow, we'll be back again talking more stuff that's going on with this football team. We'll get into any hurricane updates, any recruiting news. And then on Friday, Mitch will come in. We'll give our predictions, talk about our picks of the week, get into all that fun stuff. Now, follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Make sure to like this video. If you are watching right now, hit the like button. Puts it all up to that YouTube algorithm so other people can find it. Does help our podcast. Doesn't cost you a cent to do it. Thank you so much. I appreciate each and every one of you that have made Locked On BC part of your everyday experience. You everydayers are the lifeblood of this podcast. Thank you so much. And we'll be back again tomorrow. Take care, everyone.